just because I really like starting on time. I feel like it's kind of a good thing. And we're gonna get started seated today, which I know is kind of like not what I normally do, but it just feels like the right thing to do, I guess. So if you have a block around, it might be nice to sit up on your block. And just to get comfortable, maybe you're crossing your legs like in a really simple, easy seated position. If your knees are kind of funky this morning, you might sit back on your heels with a block underneath your sitting bones. Maybe you want to take like a half lotus. And we're going to just get started with a couple of minutes of seated meditation, I think, on this really beautiful morning. So at first, let's just kind of take notice of your general alignment. And, you know, there's no expectation of perfection or no expectation of starting off in a really centered place. But just kind of take notice of how you're sitting. You're leaning forward or backward or to one side or the other. Are you kind of like a slump through the shoulders, or are you lifting up the sternum? How do things feel this morning in the seated position? And I always find that as I start to bring awareness to my physical body, it automatically starts brightening up a little bit. Find that when I breathe deeply and I'm sitting in my meditation, my body just finds a little bit more of like this dignified seat all by itself, it seems. And so without forcing anything and without needing things to look a certain way, just observe and feel. And allow. And I'm thinking it might be nice to take just another 10 breaths here in this kind of like observation, right? Before we move into anything really structured and formal, before we move into all of our poses in our structured breath work, let's just sit and observe. Good, just 3 more breaths here, and maybe you want to set some kind of intention for your practice, or, you know, just set the course for yourself, thinking of a purpose for this time this morning. Good, and when you're ready, go ahead and open up your eyes. And it might be nice just to sort of like roll the head around a little bit. I know anytime I sit still for more than a couple minutes, I crave some amount of movement. So maybe just like a tiny little dip of the head from side to side, chin to chest. Take a look up. Maybe even stick your tongue out. All right, so let's take some, oops, somebody else is here. Let me let them in before we begin. There we go. All right, so let's take some Tibetan alternate nostril breathing this morning. So from our seated position, we're just gonna take our hands and place them in our underarms with our right arm crossed on top, kind of like Molly Shannon in Saturday Night Live, a little superstar action here. So we're just gonna kind of like take our fingers and palpate the underarm area just for a moment. This is where our heart meridian begins, right? Your thumbs might be like on the sides of your chest and you have some points of your lung meridians here. Right, so taking a moment just to kind of sit like this. And then as you inhale, reach that right arm up nice and long. And then close off your right nostril with your right finger and exhale out the left. Good, slide that right arm underneath, inhale. Left arm reaches up and out. Close off the left, exhale, right nostril. Good, a few more times like that. Inhale, right. Exhale, close right, breathe out through the left. And just keep going at your own pace. Breathing in through both nostrils, lifting that left arm. Exhale through the right nostril. Good. Maybe 5 more rounds. Good, 1 more on each side. All right, and then just allow your hands to come onto your heart and take a couple of deep breaths, sitting up nice and tall. Deep breaths in and out of both nostrils. Good. 1 more big inhale. And an exhale. Right, and if you wanted to use your music, it might be a nice time to turn that on now before we start our movements, our poses. Okay, so just taking a couple moments to pull it up. Oh boy, where's the playlist I made? I can't find it over here, so I'll be musicless today. Good. And we're going to be in our seated position for just a couple more moments. So if you've had your legs crossed in the same direction this whole time, you might switch the cross to what is inevitably the less comfortable side. And just kind of take a moment to place your hands on your knees. And then we're going to move around in some circles, just finding some space in those lower back muscles. And through the sides of the rib cage, through the hips. I just took my block out from under me. It feels nice to sort of be on the ground here. And it might feel like a thing to move really slowly, or perhaps you want to build up a little bit of speed and a little bit of heat, depending on, what kind of energy you're carrying around in your body today. I would say that if you're feeling sluggish, it might be nice to move a little bit more quickly. But if you are feeling a little bit unsettled and ungrounded and maybe like all up in your head or anxious, it might be nice to really slow things down for yourself. And maybe you're just kind of in the middle of things and your pace is in the middle of things, and that's fine too. Good. So if you haven't started moving in the other direction yet, I would think that maybe now is a good time to reverse directions. Focusing on your physical sensations and your breath. Good. And very slowly, the next time you find your chest close to the floor, let's walk the hands forward and just kind of fold in here. If your head touches down, great. If not, no worries. Just let it hang. Taking a few moments to feel the back body opening. And then slowly start to lift yourself up and out of this, and we'll cross the legs in the other direction. And then from here, we're going to take some seated cats and cows, and there are a couple of options for these. You might take your arms out to the side, and then like move them in front of you and out to the side as you lift the chest and round the back. Or your hands can be on your knees, and that's great too. Just whatever feels like the most natural for you. You know, I'm really a big fan of having my arms out nice and long. I feel like it gives me a little bit more like space to move. And so why don't we just take maybe another, like 10 of these, something like 10. And remembering that you can always slow this down, you can always speed this up, depending on what you need this morning. Good. 2 more breaths. All right, and then we'll come back and meet with some cactus arms here. And let's just cross the right arm underneath the left. And if you've got some eagle arms available, go ahead and wrap those forearms around each other. Otherwise, just hug yourself. Yeah, and whichever variation you've chosen, let the head move a little bit here. Maybe it's moving gently from side to side again, like we did in the beginning. Or you might take some circles, chin towards the chest. Good, open up those arms nice and wide, big stretch. And same thing on the other side. This time the left arm is underneath, either eagle wrapping or a nice little hug. Good, go ahead and release. And then let's just give ourselves a little swing. Sometimes after all of those cats and cows and all of those focused arm movements, I just need a little bit of freedom through the joints. So a little swing here, nothing too intense, just a little something. Good, and then slow down the swing, and we'll find ourselves in a child's pose with nice wide knees. So knees as wide as it's comfortable. It might make sense to place a blanket underneath your knees if they're a little bit sore or tender this morning. And just give yourself a moment to stretch those arms out nice and long. Let your head drop down. And just take a few really big breaths here, feeling your lower back and your lower belly move. Let's walk the hands over to the left. And take your left hand and place it down next to your left knee, and nice bend in that left elbow. You're going to sort of press your hand down and forward and find that nice opening through the right side of your body. Great, go ahead and walk it on over to the other side, same thing. Nice long left arm, bend at that right elbow, press down and forward with the hand. Good, and start to move yourself back through to the center. And we're gonna come to sit up on the heels for a moment and just take like a tiny little back bend. So walking your hands back in space, might feel nice to pick up your pelvis and point your tailbone down in between your knees. So coming into this tiny little quadricep stretch, or maybe it's a big one. And the head might drop back, or you can keep it lifted. Choice is yours. Good, a deep breath in. And a big breath out. Right, and then let's walk ourselves forward and take a downward facing dog. Ah, hooray. First down dog of the day, maybe. Let's hang on to this down dog for just about 10 deep breaths. Oh, the joy of a really long held down dog. As long as your wrists are okay, stay here and think about taking those little movements that you really like to take. Yeah, so it might be, again, some pedaling. Maybe you want to lift way up onto the tips of the toes and then drop your heels over to one side and drop your heels over to the other side. And maybe there is some movement forward into plank and back. If you're looking to use some energy this morning or build some energy, I suppose, as well. Good, maybe another 5 deep breaths here. Good. One more big inhale. And one more big exhale. Great. And then very slowly start to walk your feet up towards your hands. And we're gonna move through some sun salutations, but super duper slowly. So allow yourself some time in the standing forward fold. Let your head drop way down. Good, maybe here you're loosening the muscles of your face and letting them kind of move up your head towards the crown of your head. Good. If you've been holding some tension in your jaw this week, you might decide to like buzz your lips or stick your tongue far out. Wonderful. Good, and take a couple of breaths here to inhale and lift halfway, and then exhale and fold forward again, maybe like 5 of these. Just to get a sense of how things are feeling in your lower back, in the backs of your legs. Sometimes, you know, this little bit of movement is really nice and helpful. And other times it reminds us of how strong we are and the tensions that we hold to maintain that strength. Good. Yeah, maybe like 1 more of these. And then eventually you'll just come all the way up to standing and sweep your arms up and overhead. Take a big lift of the arms, maybe even interlace your fingers overhead and press your knuckles up. Yeah, good, feeling tall. Let's dip over to one side, a little side body stretch. Good, and come back through to the center and dip over to the other side, using your hands one against the other to sort of support this. Good, and move back through to the center here, and let's take the hands together at the heart again. And you can stand here in mountain pose with your hands together, or if you want to drop them alongside you, that's a nice thing too. You're noticing your feet on the floor, sense of steadiness through your feet. Good, and the way your hips balance above your knees, above your ankles, your shoulders above your hips. Yeah, heart softly lifts here. Good, breathe in, lift those arms up and overhead, take a big stretch. Exhale, dive forward over two long legs. Yeah, good. Breathe in, lift up halfway. Exhale, and plant your palms down and step it on back into downward facing dog, where you can choose to remain, right? Or you could choose to flow through to your high plank and then lower yourself down, keeping those elbows real close, and press into the hands, lifting up that heart. Nice. Take it on back to downward facing dog if you're rolling through your flow. Good. Deep, deep breaths here. A few of them. Good. As you breathe in, take a look in between your hands. And as you breathe out, bring your feet on up to the top of the mat, your favorite way. Yeah. Inhale, halfway lift, nice and slow. Exhale, forward fold. Good. Inhale, come all the way up, reach nice and high. Clasp those hands overhead again. And yeah, let's take another dip over to the side here. As you dip over, say to the right, you're going to press your left hip to the left. If you're doing the other side, you know what to do. Good. As you come back through to the center, really feel both feet on the floor, and then yeah, dip on over again, other side. Pressing the hip out, feet really grounded. Inhale, come back through to the center. Exhale, hands together at the heart or alongside you in mountain pose. Take a couple of deep breaths here, feeling steady. Good. As you inhale, raise those arms up and overhead again, maybe taking a tiny little back bend. Yeah, exhale, dive forward over two long legs. Great, breathe in, lift halfway, slow breath. Exhale, hands come down, step back to your down dog, to your high plank, to any set of movements that you want to take to balance your body, to bring some balance to your energy this morning. Good. A few big inhales and exhales. Great. And then one more time, breathe in, look in between the hands. And exhale to step or walk or hop on up to the top of your mat. Inhale, lift up halfway, strong back body. Exhale, soften into your forward fold. Good, breathe in, come all the way up, reach nice and high. Take that big stretch and a back bend. So it might be that small back bend with your arms out past your head, or your hands can come down to your lower back as you lift up your heart, standing camel. Yeah, nice. Great, and let's take our chair pose, our compulsory chair pose. I feel like we just have to. Yeah. When you sit down nice and low, just kind of tap into the way it feels in your knees and in your glutes and your thighs. And see if you can offer yourself like a little bit of a challenge here, okay? All right, maybe you're thinking about lifting those lower ribs up and away from the tops of the thighs or the top of the pelvis and spreading that heart space a little bit. Good, maybe you're thinking about just loosening your jaw a touch. No, I'm always like, in chair pose. Good, let's take one more deep breath in. And then a deep breath out, fold yourself forward, let it be a release and a relief. Good, inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms and find your flow through. Excuse me, 5 breaths or so. Good. All right, as you breathe in, extend your right leg up and back behind you. And just open through the hip a little bit. Point that right knee nice and high. If it's in your practice to take some hip circles, you're welcome to do that, kind of drawing a circle with your knee on the wall and the ceiling behind you. You might also toss in a little knee to nose high plank action here with that right leg lifted. So maybe like a circle and then a knee to the nose, building just like a tiny amount of, or maybe a lot of heat. I don't know, we're all so different. Good, yeah, maybe rolling your ankle around a couple of times. Nice, but then eventually, let's set that right foot down at the top of the mat, and we're gonna drop that left knee down and come into Anjaneyasana, or your low lunge, and your hands can rest on the top of your knee, or you might decide to take your arms up and overhead here. And if you have a block nearby, it might be a nice thing to have around. Let's take that block on over to the right side and place it to the outside of your hip. Reach that left arm up and just a little bit of a side body opening here. Good, really feeling those hips draw forward on the mat, that left arm reach up and over. And don't worry about like perfect alignment or anything. Just notice what you're feeling through that left hip. You notice what the right ribs feel like and make sure there's a little bit of space there. Sometimes I like to throw a small bit of a back bend into this. Good, but eventually let's shift those hips back and end up in a runner's stretch. So the hips could be high, or maybe you're sitting all the way back here with your right sitting bone down on that block and folding in. Good, taking time just to fold in here and feel the back of that right leg. And just allow yourself to soften. Good, 2 more breaths here. Right, and slowly start to lift yourself up. You're gonna take that block away if you're sitting back on it. Let's rebend that right knee briefly, tuck the left toes underneath, and then walk the hands around to the left to come into a standing wide angle fold. Good, and why don't we give ourselves 7 or 8 breaths just to fold through the middle here. Maybe your head reaches down for the block. Maybe you tug at the hair on the top of your head, or interlace your fingers and place them behind the back of your neck. Good, 1 or 2 more breaths here. Nice, and then we're just gonna bend that left knee and straighten through the right leg and sink down into our low half squat or Skandasana. And depending on how your hips are feeling, how that right inner leg is feeling, you might have your hands on the floor. Maybe if you're like trying to work towards a balance, you can bring the hands up and the fingertips together in Hakini Mudra, or focus and concentration, hand gesture. Thinking about spreading the toes of your right foot nice and wide, flexing through that foot. Another breath or 2 here. Nice. Ooh, yeah, and I see what Amy's doing. The left hand can stay down, the right arm can reach up. Again, getting into the side of your body a little bit. Nice. Great. Let's place that right hand back down if it's lifted, and then take the slow trip all the way back up to the top of the mat. Great. I'm thinking that we'll step that left foot forward and come into standing forward fold, and take your hands to the backs of your calves and just draw your chest in towards your thighs. Let the head drop way down. And just another couple of breaths. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and plant your palms to step it on back into downward facing dog. And if you want to roll through your vinyasa, your chaturanga and all of that, you're certainly welcome to. Might be nice to take to your hands and knees for some cats and cows. Just any kind of movement that feels balancing and appropriate in your physical body this morning. Yeah, a couple more breaths. Great, as you inhale, extend that left leg up and back behind you and open through the hip. Yeah, and just feel free to take some movements that make sense. So it might be some hip circles combined with little knee to nose and high plank. Good, a few moments worth of this type of like stronger movement. Before eventually setting that left foot down up at the top of the mat, we're going to drop the right knee down and come into our low lunge. Good, and have that block handy. You can reach the arms up and overhead here for a moment just to feel nice and tall. And then we'll take that left hand down onto the block and just tip over to the left. That right arm's nice and high. You might even take like a small back bend. Really focus in on how your lower back and how your rib cage feels here. Good, another 2 deep breaths. Right, and then we're gonna shift ourselves back into the runner stretch. So a nice long left leg. Maybe you're sitting really far back and sitting on your block. And then the hands can just walk forward, chest towards the thigh. Let's give ourselves a good 7 breaths here. Good, one more big inhale and exhale. Right, and then let's slowly rebend that left knee. Walk yourself forward, tuck your right toes. And then we're just gonna walk the hands around to the right. Let the head drop down. You might tug at your hair again if you like doing that. Or another nice spot is to interlace your fingers behind your back and press your knuckles up and maybe even drop them like down towards the floor. Yeah. Really feel the outer edges of your feet plugged into the ground. Inner arches lifting a little bit. Good. About 3 or 4 more breaths here. Right, if your arms are back behind you, go ahead, drop the hands down, and we'll just deeply bend that right knee and come into your low half squat. With that left leg extended out nice and long. Good, and take a moment just to maybe sit up nice and tall. Your hands could remain down on the floor on your block. Or maybe you want to play with balance a little bit here, and that's great too. And another few big inhales and exhales. Yeah, if you want to take your twist, take that right hand down, send the left arm up nice and high. Hey, buddy. Right, and then we'll begin our slow movement right back up to the top of the mat. We're going to step that right foot up to meet the left, standing forward fold. Yeah, and here, take your hands back behind your head, interlace them, and just really kind of like weight your head and stretch the neck. Hey, baby. And a few really big inhales and exhales. And very slowly start to roll yourself up to standing. Just a really slow motion movement here. Standing up nice and tall. And I think we'll practice just a tiny bit of balancing work before we go back down to the ground. So how about some eagle pose today? I feel like eagle might be kind of nice. I'm gonna take my block and place it on the outside of my right foot. Today I'm feeling a little like over caffeinated, so I think having like a little extra support around for steadiness is a good thing. So I'm crossing my left thigh over my right and kind of deeply bending the knees as I touch my left toes down to the block. And then yeah, you can hug around here, or you can eagle wrap, right? Whatever works. And at first, think about really lifting your elbows up away from your knees. Sit down nice and low. Good. Find your balance, or lack thereof. Good. A few deep breaths. Good. If you can fold in on yourself a little bit, go and do it. Elbows down towards the knees. Kind of point those right fingertips forward as your left fingers clasp your right wrist. Good. And then we'll start to come out of this slowly, unwinding the arms, unwinding the legs. Set that left foot down and just give yourself a tiny swing. You can see if you can let your arms just move all by themselves without any need to control them. Really feel your feet pressing into the ground. And then let's find some stillness here in the middle. Maybe stepping your feet back into like hip socket distance. Good, a big breath in. Let's sweep those arms up and overhead. Exhale, fold forward over two long legs. And drop your head down. Good, let your head be nice and heavy for a couple of breaths. And that slow, slow, slow movement all the way up to standing. Good, once you get there, reaching those arms nice and high, big stretch, feeling the full length of your body. Exhale, hands together at the heart. Good, begin to shift the weight over into that left foot and cross your right thigh on top of the left thigh. Good, bending those knees, settling yourself, settling yourself down. And then yeah, the right arm will be underneath this. Eagle wrapping or hugging around. Good, take notice of where the elbows are. Feel them lifting at least for a couple moments. And then yeah, you can go ahead and kind of fold yourself in here when you feel good and ready. Elbows towards the knees, chest towards the thighs. Good, slowly start to lift the chest away from the thighs. Unwrap the legs, unwrap the arms, stomp that right foot down, and just a little swing. And maybe circular swing, could be like a lateral side to side type of thing. Maybe your head and neck get in on it. Gently, of course. Good. All right, and then go ahead and slow it down. And step to the top of your mat if you're elsewhere. We're gonna step the feet just about mat width distance. And then let's try to sit down and then lay down. Maybe without using our hands, maybe. You might use your hands and that's fine too. But just take a couple moments to really like lower down with your nice strong legs, with your nice strong glutes. And maybe you plop down, maybe your feet go up, but eventually find your back. Find your constructive rest, so the soles of your feet are gonna be on the mat. You're about mat width, knees pointing up. Good. Take your hands onto your belly for a couple of deep breaths and notice the movement of your breath in your body. And one more deep breath. And then just wiggle your feet back into about hip socket distance. Your arms are going to start alongside your body. And we'll take some floating bridges. So as you inhale, pick up your hips, float those arms out past your head, backs of the hands touch down. And as you exhale, you're just rolling it back down and taking those arms back alongside you. Maybe we'll take 7 or 8 of these. So really syncing your slow breath with your slow movement. And thinking about finding that little bit of like a pause when you reach the top of your bridge pose. And that little bit of a pause once you've breathed out and you are connected with the ground. You're really giving yourself the time and space for presence. Instead of moving from one thing to the next and rushing around. Good. Wonderful. Couple more. And the next time you find yourself settled down onto the floor, extend those legs out nice and long. And reach your arms out past your head. And we'll slide the heels on over to the right and the shoulders in that direction too for banana pose. Good. In your banana pose, take notice of how the left side of your body feels. And sometimes we have like a lot of openness in the sides of our body and we can really slide those heels and those shoulders over. So also take notice of the right side of your rib cage and your belly and make sure that it doesn't feel too crimped or pinched there. If it's starting to feel a little funky on the right side, ease out of it a touch. Good. Why don't we take another 5 deep breaths here. Beautiful. Bring yourself back through to the center. Pull your knees in towards your chest. Curl up into a little ball. Maybe a gentle rock around on your sacrum, back. And then let's take some time to drop the knees over to the left and just find an easygoing spinal twist. Okay, this could be super gentle with your knees together, kind of drawing in and up towards the chest and belly. If you're feeling like a little bit more of a challenging twist, you might take cat pulling its tail pose, where you extend that right leg nice and long on the mat, and then bend at the right knee. Right, left, sorry. Your left leg nice and long on the mat, bend at the left knee, and then reach back for your left foot with your right hand behind you. Yeah. Adding a little bit of that quadriceps opening into this, if your lower back and hips are okay with that. Good, a few more breaths. Alrighty, and then find center again. Extend those arms and legs out nice and long on the mat. Big, big stretch, and banana on over to the left. So heels and shoulders scoot to the left. Right side body gets a whole lot of space here, but not at the expense of the left side of your rib cage and your waist and hip. So check in with both sides. We want to feel sensation, but we also want to feel some amount of ease here. Good. Wonderful. Another small set of breaths. Good, and then back through to the center, knees to chest, maybe happy baby. Or maybe you want to set your feet up to the ceiling and roll your ankles around or something like that. Yeah, any kind of intuitive movement in the middle is totally up for grabs here. Anything that works in your body on this morning. Before eventually finding your twist on over to the other side. So knees dropping over to the right this time. Yeah. Good. Breathing a few slightly bigger breaths and scooting your shoulders and your hips and your knees into the position that feels like the most sustainable twist for you. Good. If you like cat pulling its tail, of course, you're welcome to extend that right leg out nice and long towards the end of the mat, and then bend that right knee and reach back for your right foot with your left hand. Just a couple more breaths here. Mm. Good. And as you feel ready, you can find center again and get your wiggles out in any way that you need to. If you have like a shoulder stand practice or want to take legs up the wall or like another bridge pose or any of those things, you're certainly welcome to do that. I'm also going to toss out like a restorative bridge perhaps, especially if you've been feeling a little bit drawn about, you know, like all over the place. A restorative bridge is a nice way to ease out of a more stressful mindset. I'm just taking maybe 5 breaths or so to do a thing that feels right. Good. Good. And then take your time to come on out of this pose of your choice and into your final shape, which could be you in Shavasana. Could be you in a restorative pose that you need. Maybe after all that, you want like a child's pose. Hey, maybe you want to sit up in meditation just as we began. So making a choice and getting there. And as you get there, then deepen your breath. And allow your breath to guide your body into some amount of peace and stillness. And in this place of rest, just notice how your body feels and how your breath feels. Notice the state of things in your mind. And remind yourself of who you are and what you bring to this world around us. your unique gifts and talents, and how they can best serve others and ourselves. And once you feel ready to move a little bit, go ahead and just do that thing. Wiggle those fingers and toes. And maybe you need like a really big stretch after all that laying down and slow breathing. Good, but eventually we'll make our way up into a seated position, which could be by way of rolling over to your side, or maybe you want to rock up and take a little balance or a boat before settling your feet down. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Okay, and why don't we just take our hands and place them on top of our heart. You can stack one on top of the other. If you feel like a mudra, maybe a Vajrapradama mudra with your fingers interlaced, kind of sitting on top of your heart. This gesture of trust and acceptance and knowledge, right? Knowledge of your ability to navigate the flow of things, right? Knowing that you are capable. And a deep breath in to lift the heart up into the hands. And a deep breath out. Drop your head down towards your hands and your heart, honoring your practice and honor each other too. Namaste. Thanks everybody for being here this morning. Yeah, I hope your Thursday is really kind of nice and brings some good things to you. So, I'll see you all really soon. Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, nice to see y'all. Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Sam. Yeah. I'll see you later, Amy. See you later.